Good morning. Call the Wednesday morning, April 13th meeting, the Criminal Justice meeting to order, or committee to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hess?
Present.
Mr. Long?
Present.
Mr. Lear?
Present.
Mr. Snipes? Ms. Peters? Ms. Parker?
Present.
Mr. Fairfield?
Present.
Mr. Carrico?
Present.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Present.
Mr. Swanson?
Present.
Mr. Kirkstra? Mr. Hunter?
Present.
Mr. Collins? Mr. Kenneth Smith?
Present.
Mr. Gowler? Mr. Wheeler? Mr. Searoy? We have a quorum.
Okay, I have not received anything for public comment. Is there any public comment at this time? Any public comment? Moving on to the approval of minutes for March 9th, 2022. Take a motion to approve. Ms. Parker, second by Mr. Carrico. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Up next, Chief Judge Cunnington. Good morning, sir.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Hess. Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Former Alderman Hunter, it's good to see you up and about.
Hey, I'm telling you, it's man, you just don't know how it feels. It feels you know, an 85% better, and I'm walking slowly but surely.
Okay, good news. I just have three things to report this morning. First is just an update on our case management system committee. We are meeting regularly. In fact, we have a meeting tomorrow at 3:30 at the courthouse. The stakeholders are putting together their information as to what their needs are with regard to what that case management system is needed to do for their particular wheelhouse that they have. And the other thing, the basement renovation is moving along. They were down there a couple of days ago doing some measurements, and I think they're getting close to going out for bid on that project, and maybe Andy knows more about it than I do here. Third thing I have to report, it's going to rain. Any questions?
How much?
Yeah, I don't know that. And you're invited to the meeting, by the way.
Any questions for the Chief Judge? Nothing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Up next, Ms. Cianci, Circuit Clerk's Office. In your package, have a copy of her monthly report. Take a motion to approve. Mr. Eckhoff, second by Mr. Smith. Good morning, Sandy.
Good morning, good morning.
Comments on your report?
No, none really. Our collections, as we know, has decreased significantly for the same time as last year, but we aren't surprised by that, so it is what it is. And I don't have anything on the other big general report. State's Attorney collections, they did fairly decently with their cases as well.
Any questions for Sandy on the report? We have a motion, a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Anything else for us?
No, we're still clearing out the basement. I have our misdemeanor and felony files were put in different sections for different reasons, and so we're in the middle of trying to put them all in chronological order so that then when the electrician apprentice group will come in and box them all up, and then we'll be done with that. And then I have a call out to the shredding company to get the rest of the files shredded, so the basement should be cleaned up and ready for action in a couple months probably. So that's good. And then the other thing is I had a claim that I submitted for logo wear for my office, and it was returned. And I just want you to know that it's out of a special fund, and it's for when my employees wear their Blue Jean Friday. It's just a shirt to wear with their clothes on Blue Jean Friday. So I'm not going to be here for the Finance Committee meeting. I'm going to be out of town from April 20th. So I wanted to at least let you know that if I were here for the Finance Committee meeting, that's what I would say. So.
Mr. Wheeler.
I'm sorry, that claim was returned to you?
Well, Steve sent me an email that Jake put a comment that,
Oh, so Jake didn't, the auditor didn't just send it back to you? Okay.
Well, I
Because that
mean-
wouldn't have been part of the system. That would have been really a breach of what is supposed to happen. So that's why I was asking.
and this is the first time it's happened to me, so I wasn't sure how it's supposed to
Okay.
go. Because I replied back to Steve and said it's coming out of special funds, the clerk op and the admin fund. So it's not out of the general fund, it's out of a special fund. And so I didn't know what to do. And then since I won't be here for finance, I just wanted to be upfront about it right away.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Did the auditor ever contact back to you? Number 9.
Which one you?
Number 9.
There we go.
Did the auditor ever reach out to you?
Not yet. I just got the email from Steve McCarty yesterday late, so
Okay, so nothing from the auditor's office.
not yet. I did see the scanned version where it said I would normally not approve of this in that language. And then, so I thought I was supposed to respond to Steve. And then Steve said, no, you need to address finance committee. I won't be at finance, so that's why I'm doing it now. So, other than that, I'm looking through the RFP for the computer project, and there's a lot there, but we'll keep plugging along, and I'm very excited. So that's about it.
Any questions for Sandy?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Hunter.
Thank you very much, sir. Sandy, I know some time ago you had mentioned that there were some issues you had with coverage in terms of staff, not having enough staff every day, and I know we've approved some staff for you. Have you been able to work out a system whereby that particular issue can be resolved or ameliorated, whereby that you will have enough staffing additionally? And I know I brought this other subject matter up, is if you are cross-training your staff, which would alleviate that problem. My last question first. Are you doing any cross-training?
So right now, we're not able to do any cross-training to the point that I believe you're referencing to. We have been touring other counties and seeing their systems and how they operate, and we would be able to do it at that point. The way we're divided up into different floors and different areas, and the work that we have to accomplish through our current system is so tedious and time consuming that if you didn't work and do that specific task every day, you wouldn't be able to, it's just complicated. So, but we're caught up right now. Things are working well. Finding people has been the global issue. You know, I've had people, I hired an excellent person, but it didn't work out, and she resigned last week. I've got another one starting May 2nd, so my fingers are crossed. The other space issue is one issue too in our office, so I think we're going to be at our maximum, and we're just going to plug along and do the best we can until we're able to move on to a different system. And at that point, things will be better.
But let me say this, you know, come June, July, and August, when a lot of people take vacations and stuff, that's going to pose a problem.
Oh, it always does.
Yeah. But what I'm saying, though, and I'm not going to belabor this, but maybe if you guys would sit down and do some kind of soul searching, internal kind of assessment, retreat or something, come up with some kind of solution to the issues that I've articulated. So anyway, I'm just passing it along to you.
Well, and I just want to also say that I've invited everybody to our office several times so that they can see the process of what we do and how we do it and why we do it that way. And once you visually encounter the whole system, you'll understand why things are the way they are. And again, it'll be different once we move forward with a different system.
Okay, all I'm saying is time study, some experts, a consultant or somebody to take a look at what you guys do, make an assessment as to how you may be able to tweak your system and make it better in terms of having enough personnel and having people cross-trained. That's important. Anyway, and I'll talk to you about it maybe one-on-one, and maybe not at this particular venue. Thank you.
Fine. Thank you.
Mr. Snipes.
I think in all fairness, with the current staff that you do have, if you multitask, multi-train, in my estimation, when I've been over there, you're doing all of that. So without additional help, no matter how you multitask, train, you will still be in the same predicament because you still have this enormous workload. So I'm thinking that Steve is trying to help you out and say that he's going to work with the powers that be to probably get you some additional staff up in there.
Thank you. That's fine.
Mr. Wheeler.
In the face of that comment, I was going to ask, was it June or July that the collection laws changed that we could no longer hold licenses until they pay?
Something like that, yeah.
Because that's revenue that pays for your office and those
Correct.
people in there
Correct.
is now, what, roughly 1/10 of what it used to be?
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how that had a direct impact.
It did.
So all of these laws out of Springfield have a local impact, not just on the safety of police officers, but our ability to operate our court system.
Right.
People need to realize that on January 1st, it's going to get exponentially worse.
Correct.
Next year when there's cashless bail.
Right.
Just consider what we're facing financially and in a public safety sense.
Yep.
So hiring more people, I don't think is going to be possible when your revenue's under attack by Chicago and Springfield.
Right.
And Mr. Chairman, Wheeler, I never even intimated that whatsoever. I never intimated that. That's something that
Means, and I do that, we just don't have the money to devote to hiring people in all these departments. It's actually getting worse in that area. So.
Yep. But there, when we toured the other counties with their different systems, the clerk was able to walk out of the room at the end of the court hearing and was done. And that will be amazing. So that's what we're looking forward to. Okay,
Anything else for Sandy?
thank you.
Thank you. Up next, State's Attorney's Office. Mr. Coughlin, in your package you have a copy of the grand jury report and the grand jury statistics report. Take a motion to combine and approve. Mr. Snipes and Mr. Lear. Good morning again, sir.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Wonderful. Comments on the report?
Well, we've got, on the March 31st grand jury, we had 25 true bills. We've also included all the statistics, the breakdowns of the cases. And other than that, if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to do my best to answer.
Any questions on the reports? Mr. Snipes?
Report something else. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, just a sec. No questions on the report. We have a motion, a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Mr. Snipes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sure you're going to get to it, but I know there's some new dollars that's been funneled down for the youth programs and things of this nature, and that you're partnering with the school district as to finding things to do for the summer to engage these youth along with some of the programs you already have. And how do you envision that program to, I guess, how long do we have the revenue source that could sustain it? Or a more specific question, how long would that revenue sustain where we can engage youth until we have to probably find something else?
I know Jim just received a new grant, but as far as projection as to how long we're going to be able to sustain that, I don't have a number for you as far as that goes. I do know that his position is that he's going to continue it. Has no plans to stop it, and will continue seeking funding, which he's been able to get over time. We have a specific grants individual that is working on that all the time. So there, we have a continuing flow with most of those grants that's going to be able to, we'll be able to continue those programs.
No, and I think it's successful. They had the 41 students on a college tour out of grant, and those children, those students were just elated. I also know that he engages students, because when I'm at the mall, they go to that little game place or whatever. So it's like he's doing, the program is working if we can get enough fuel in the system to just keep it going. But I do applaud his efforts and the efforts of the interrelationship with the schools and partnership with the Y and other things that's kind of generally out the norm of what a state's attorney does, but he's doing it and appears to be successful at it.
Well, the partnership with Dr. Walters and KSD 111 is, a huge thing. Jim also has the teen court, which is actually was last night. All those types of things are attempting to get our kids, stop the bad issues before they really take hold. And so far, it's been a very productive program.
I wish they put some extra dollars in there. In that, I believe that it's better to go ahead and invest now than to incarcerate and be charged so much more later. So it's a step in the right direction. So just wanted to applaud you in that area.
No, thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Up next, Mr. Pennewick from the Public Defender's Office. In your packet, you have a copy of his monthly report. Take a motion to approve by Ms. Peters, second by Mr. Swanson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Thank you. I've got nothing to add specifics as far as specifics go, so if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions on the report? We have a motion, a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. What else, sir?
That's all I have. Everything is going okay, and I've got nothing specific to report at this time.
Any questions for Ed? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Probation, Mr. Latham, didn't forget you this month. In your packet, you have a copy of his monthly report. Take a motion to approve. Mr. Eckhoff, second by Mr. Long.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Nothing to add on the report unless there's any questions.
Any questions on the report for Mr. Latham? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Comments?
Just the only other thing really is regarding the public service work. We started reaching out to municipalities again now that the weather's starting to break. We had these conversations before, but it was winter. So we're making contact with them this week, and then we're following up with a letter going to the director of Public Works, the mayor, anybody, and giving them basically a letter with instructions on how to request workers and get it moving. Really, we need this. We're getting good responses, but we need this because ever since COVID, our job sites have kind of gone away, and it's not recovering that fast after everything's kind of getting back to normal. So, and then you have winter in there. So this will be a big help. We want to get it going. Like I said, I've had conversations with several communities, and everybody seems very positive about getting workers out there. We have about 30,000 hours on the books right now. So we need to start chipping away at it and getting some people to work. So, but hopefully that'll get going. Obviously, I think the weather's going to change. I think it's going to get nice out at some point. So,
Chief Judge, you said it's going to rain.
That's right. Nobody's working tomorrow, but obviously, so I'll keep you posted on that. But I think we're getting it moving, and it should be hopefully by May we'll have something going. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Hunter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Tom, in addition to those municipalities and units of government, don't forget the other entities, the churches and stuff, because we're going to be interfacing with you as well too, as my church, Caldwell Chapel, and I know with COVID and so forth, and many of the churches, the attendance has gone down, and a parallel situation is money's going into the offering trade. So if there's a way you can get a listing of all the churches and stuff and make sure that they get that information, they can read that stuff in their bulletins every Sunday. We'd appreciate that.
Okay, and we do have a lot of churches, Steve, on the list, but we'll double check to make sure that they're all covered on that list, and we're hitting all of them.
And thank you very much. Our church was really excited when we mentioned it back in the wintertime, and so we'll be interfacing with you and making sure that we can use some of the help, and I'm sure that you'll vet those people some kind of way as well too.
Oh yes,
so,
yes,
right?
yeah, we do that, and when the list we have for approved job sites is something we're checking all the time. It just changes all the time. The people that work at those job sites who coordinate it for us change all the time. So it's just not something you can do every couple of years, and we have our list. It's something all the time. So, I'll be working with you, Mr. Hunter, and whoever to make sure that list is up to date and we have everybody on there. So,
thank you very much, sir.
And the other thing is just the update on vacancies. We have 3. We hired an employee, started a couple weeks ago. So we're down 3 right now. We have a retirement in the first week of June, so we'll be back to 4. And this last couple weeks, the Office of Statewide Pretrial Services that I've been talking about has started getting their job announcements out to hire staff. We're competing for the same people. Their starting salaries almost the exact same as ours, right down to the penny. With working remotely for that might be something that draws some people. So we'll see how that, it's not going to help us attract more people, but we're working on it. I just hope it doesn't pull any of our young staff that wouldn't, but we'll see. That's all we can do. At least we're in better shape salary-wise, because some counties start out less than what they're offering at the statewide for those positions. So I'm sure they're going to lose some people. So I'll keep you posted.
How many years did Grace have?
Grace, oh Lord, she started in 90, I think. So she's going to be a big loss.
Yep.
She's a big loss.
32 years.
Yes, so.
Any other questions for Mr. Latham? Thank you, sir. Up next, the sheriffs. Mr. Downing, have a copy of the monthly report. Take a motion to approve. Mr. Carrico, second by Ms. Parker. Good morning.
Good morning.
Copies on your report. Or comments. Copies. Comments.
Yeah, a couple. Just briefly, our local numbers are actually kind of maintaining. They're actually, last year our local average was 265. We're down to an average of 241. So that has gone down. And our out of counties are up actually from 246 to 256. So we're still somewhat holding our own with revenue, even though it's down a little bit. It's not down as much as what we anticipated. If you look at the under C in the report, the DOC, those sentenced to prison, we are on a pace right now of 132. If the numbers stay relatively the same, which would be down a little bit from the number that went to prison last year. However, those that are being released, we are on a pace to be significantly more than what has been released the past year. So last year, there were 335 individuals released from IDOC back to our community. We are on a pace this year to have approximately 420. Obviously, the hope is that when these individuals get released, they come back and they do better, find a job, and those type of things, although unfortunately we know that that is not true for some. So all we can do is continue to work to make that happen. I will tell you, just to give you some sort of Just an example, and this is the last person. We get notified when somebody's getting released from prison. We get notified locally. The state's attorney gets notified. The arresting agency gets notified. The sheriff's office gets notified. Ed, I'm not sure if you guys get notified as well, but regardless. So just as a, just kind of as an example, and there was no rhyme or reason why this individual is who I used, and I won't share his name because hopefully now that he's out, again, hopefully he's able to find employment and, you know, not come back in our system. Individual was sentenced to 42 months in prison, 3 years and 6 months. He was arrested on August 21st of 2020. Of course, that was during COVID, by KMEG. He was sentenced to what amounts to 1,277 days, the 42 months. He was transferred to DOC on 10/29 of 21. He is scheduled to be released within the next 10 days. Just to give you an idea of the time that he spent here as opposed to the time he spent in IDOC, because we all know, or we should know by now, that a 3-year, 6-month sentence isn't a 3-year, 6-month sentence, because they basically get half their time off the minute they walk in the door at DOC, including the time that they served in our jail. So this individual, he pled guilty on 10/8 of 21, and what normally would have transferred him within the first 3 or 4 days of his sentence, we didn't transfer him until 10/29. So that was 20 plus days that he stayed in our facility.
But we were reimbursed for that.
Not yet. He was assessed $75 fine, a $2,215 criminal assessment, and a $200 conditional assessment by the court. When he was sentenced, he made an oral motion for a full waiver of that money, and it was granted, because they can do that now. So from the KMEG arrest to the state's attorney to the public defender to the clerk to everybody else who dealt with this person, he's not paying a dime. We are, the taxpayers of our county, because his fee, his criminal assessment, if you will, got waived because of this legislation in Springfield. So I've said it before, you know, the people who are footing the bill for our criminal justice system are the law-abiding, tax-paying citizens. I will tell you that he did spend 434 days in our jail on a 3-year, 6-month sentence, and he spent 179 days in the Illinois Department of Corrections. So you want to know where our money's going? Right there. So anyway, and there'll be more of those, and I will periodically go and I will share the good with the bad. I mean, if there's something that was beneficial, I mean, I will certainly share that as well, although I think those will be certainly few and far between. So that's all I got on the report.
Mr. Snipes, question on the report?
Question on one of the on the comment. Do we? I know you stated that they just let them off. Is there any other resolve, like community service, or nothing's built into the process that the judge can look at?
Just waive it.
Just waive it.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions on the report?
I have a question.
On the report, Steve?
Well, it's kind of general,
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, kind of general, and pardon me for not speaking Jermaine specifically. Sheriff Downey, with respect to the Champaign County renovation project, is there a timeline in terms of how long that will take, and what does that mean in terms of the prisoners that will be housing at Jerome Combs? And I want to applaud your effort for thinking outside the box in that regard. And I got another question as well too.
At this point, and I'm in conversation with the sheriff down in Champaign County pretty regularly. At this point, they have not set a timeline, although he did say it will be, it will more than likely go into next year.
Oh, wow. Next year?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good to hear.
We thought so too.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Another question. I know that Chairman Wheeler mentioned yesterday that Senator Joyce was able to provide us with $100K for the animal shelter that we're going to be involved in, a new one and so forth. I was wondering, do we send a letter to the senator and Jackie Haas, Representative Haas, for their efforts? Because I'm sure she had to carry the water in the House, and maybe he did something. Maybe he did something with in the Senate, or if he just used his senatorial funds for that $100,000, which he gave to Chairman Wheeler for his request. Do you know anything about that?
I do not. In fact, yesterday, I think, was the first time I heard it.
Yeah, so I'm sure Chairman Wheeler will probably send a communication to Senator Joyce and thank him on behalf of the county board for his philanthropy. That's going to be a really nice project, and I was pretty pleased with the way it was articulated and what we're doing, and how pragmatic Chairman Wheeler was as far as working on this project with other ancillary individuals.
Yeah, one more thing I'll add on the report, if you would, down under the sworn services under item D, the new categories that we have of the mental health calls, which again were part of House Bill 3653. In March, we had 3 mental health calls, and we've had 7 total where our officers have dealt with a subject who was having a mental health episode, as well as we had, and I know for a fact that the coroner is going to give you numbers that are worse than these, but in the county, we did have 2 overdoses in March, overdose cases, not deaths. I'll let the coroner talk about those. And we've dealt with 7 so far in 2022. So that's it for the report.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the report. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Well, Mr. Hunter kind of took our thunder on the animal control update, but it was good thunder. As everybody realized yesterday, we are in the process of a new building and moving forward, so that's great news for everybody involved, and we do appreciate what the legislature has done to get us at least a portion of some funding to help. So other than that, animal control is doing good.
Questions on animal control? Declaring equipment surplus.
Yeah, as you know, we updated our EOC, and with that update, we actually replaced those projectors. If you remember, there were projectors in that EOC that showed on the screens off to the side. Those screens, or those projectors rather, were kind of repair nightmares, if you will. They've been 10 or 16 years old, so I mean that's not it's not like we didn't get our money's worth out of them, but we did replace those with TVs, so now those TVs are hooked up to the computer system itself, and so you're seeing the same thing on there. There's just no need for those projectors. There were 3 total projectors, but only one had a county sticker on them. So I don't know if that matters if we declare them surplus or not, but I believe that you had what I had, the sticker number of the one, but there are 3 total. So we'd like to declare those surplus. They're not.
It says there's 3 screens with 1 number and 3 projectors with 1 number.
Yes, 1 projector, yeah.
Can we do that? Yeah. I take a motion to declare this. Mr. Long, second by Mr. Eckhoff. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. As long as we're discussing the EOC, one of my questions, when are we going to move back out there? When you're ready?
Well, we actually had the superintendent of schools, Pledge for Life, had a meeting out there, and we actually used Zoom. I wanted to be able to know that we did this before we had everybody out there, and then we weren't able to use it. So we actually did use Zoom successfully. So I would imagine we can probably move it at your leisure. So
would you work with the chairman and
Sure.
get your date set? And
sure.
I hate to see half of us end up here and half of us end up out there like
Right.
we've done before.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gray Key update.
Yeah, so if you remember, and it's been a while, I'm sure most of you are aware, I haven't had an ARPA request for a couple months now. But Gray Key is one of those ARPA requests that we made that you granted. And I think it's important for you to know that the money that you appropriated for that system and the equipment has been very beneficial. You know, I don't want to just come to you with requests for money and say thanks for the money, see you later. I want to report back to what, you know, is actually happening with that money, so you know that you're getting a bang for your buck. And I can tell you that in the short time that we've had Gray Key, it has been instrumental in providing valuable information in a number of criminal cases, not only for the sheriff's department cases, but also for the other municipalities. So credit to you guys, and thank you for allowing us to have it. Our detectives they are very thankful that they have what they have, because it's made their cases somewhat easier. I know Mr. Penaway probably doesn't want to hear that, but it has been very beneficial for law enforcement, so thank you. In addition to that, the other big purchase that we made was a body scanner. We installed that body scanner less than a month ago, and we have already had incidents where while it never made it to the body scanner, in fact, just yesterday we had a female in custody. She was put through our regular pat down, because it's not, the body scanner, as I said, wasn't going to eliminate the pat down. We are still, our correctional officers are still going to pat an individual down when they come in, but we all have hiding places on our body that different people use for different things. And so yesterday, after a female was patted down, she was advised that she was going to go on the body scanner, and she pulled a baggie of cocaine out of her bra. So, which otherwise would have potentially ended up in the jail. So, and like I said, we haven't had that operational for much less a month now. So it's been very beneficial so far, and we'll continue to report back on that too. But again, our correction staff is grateful to have it, and so thank you.
Questions on any of that? Vehicles.
Yes, so the state bid pricing has not come out yet for vehicles, so I don't come to you for any request. I just want to give you an update. The state bid pricing contract is supposed to come out sometime in May, and I believe that the 2019s that we purchased, I believe that lease will be up if it's not up already. So I more than likely would be coming back to you asking to maintain or continue to maintain our fleet as we have in the past. I think you'll notice that our repair bills have significantly decreased because of the condition of our vehicles. And I think that's a benefit, and if we continue to do that, I think that benefits everybody. I will also have a list of surplus vehicles to bring to this committee in May as well. And that's all I got.
Any questions for the sheriff, Mr. Eckhoff?
What's the
Number 9. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You can't see the numbers.
Just a question. How many miles are on the 2019 vehicles? Just from my guesstimation.
I don't know, but I will shoot you a text when I get back to the office.
Thank you.
Any other questions before I ask mine? You're probably not going to like, but in the paper last night there was an article about the Safety Act. Would you like to comment on it?
You know, the one thing that we're going to do here as we move forward, I mean, there are so many things that you as county board members, the general public, really don't know how that's going to affect us all. There was nothing done in Springfield regarding the Safety Act, and that was a little bit disappointing because the cashless bail, I mean, I gave you the example earlier about the fees being waived. You know, cashless bail, you know, you're going to have, you know, not only the money that is brought in through the bail system now, but the costs, we don't even know what the costs are going to be when it comes to everybody having to do other things because, and I'll give you a quick example, and I may have given it to you before, but you know, I'm sure everybody looks at Warrant Wednesday every day, and some people like it, some people don't, but it is what it is. And you know, I tell people all the time, if you want to avoid Warrant Wednesday, show up to court. It's the simplest way to stay off Warrant Wednesday. Yep. However, once on January of 2023 and January 1st of 2023, now if an individual doesn't show up to court, the court doesn't issue a warrant right away. So they've, you know, one of the reasons that there's a cash bond right now is there's multiple reasons why there's a cash bond, but one of them is an assurance to show up to court. Well, if you don't have that assurance to show up to court, why would you show up to court? It's much like what was talked about earlier when Sandy mentioned the traffic tickets, or the chairman mentioned the traffic tickets, where, you know, your license no longer gets suspended if you don't pay your traffic tickets. What's the incentive to pay your traffic ticket? There is none. And who ends up footing the bill? We do. So, you know, so now if you don't show up to court, now the state's attorney has to file a rule to show cause why you didn't show up to court. So they don't issue a warrant, they file a rule to show cause. Well, the problem with that rule to show cause is the sheriff has to serve that rule to show cause. So in addition to all of our civil process papers, now we're going to have to serve, and they have to be served within 48 hours prior to their next court date. And then if they don't show up, then I believe the court can issue a warrant. But as it is now, you're increasing the work of the state's attorney's office, the circuit clerk, the judicial system, the sheriff's office, to serve because these individuals didn't show up to court. And that's just one. I mean, we're going to go through a whole litany of the issues that cashless bail is going to cause, not only law enforcement, but our community, the other offices involved, including the public defender's office and everybody else. I mean, it's going to be burdensome, and it is nothing. The only thing it does is benefit the ones who break the law, and that's sad. And
the way I read it is, if the warrant is issued then by the state's attorney's office, they're arrested, they can still, there's no bail, so they're still out.
Right.
Correct?
Yeah.
And if they don't show through the second
I think the court has some discretion at some point, and I think Judge Cunnington can probably address this better. I don't know at what point where they can end up holding somebody. You know, there's others. I mean, believe me, we could talk about this in a, you know, we're going to, between Jim Rowe's office and myself, I mean, we will continue to talk about the things that will be detrimental to our system and our community.
hate to get your blood pressure up this time of the morning, but the one I read it, I just couldn't believe.
Is my face red? Is that why you think it's?
Any other questions for the sheriff? Mr. Snipes.
With that Cashless Bail, I know I read the Black Caucus and their reports of why they were doing, but I don't, just like Senate Bill 100 to the schools, I don't think that it has gone far enough or that they have well thought out the process. In some cases, their greatest argument is that that it doesn't apply to felonies, only to those misdemeanors, or is that kind of like accurate on their part? Because according to them, it's more so they're not letting the rapists and the felonies out, but rather their discussion was centered around individuals that were going into court, sometimes being held, and then at some point they could have been in and out, versus spending dollars being inside the institution. But however, it looks like by the time it got through legislation, there's some variables that wasn't well thought out, or at least having individuals sit at the table to discuss
That's correct.
some of the adverse conditions that could be, or adverse results that could affect their particular village, county, or city, municipality.
Well, and I'll give you one example, because it does include felonies. You can commit a felony and get out. And I'll give you an example of one of the ones that our state's attorney talks about all the time. If you are a convicted felon and you are found to be in possession of a gun, because nobody can pinpoint who you would have been going after, but if you were in possession of that gun, that is eligible for cashless bail. A felony in possession of a weapon. So, I mean, it's, again, we won't know the full effect until we start, doing it. And I would have been an advocate for starting it right away to show, but so far, if you remember, Mr. Snipes, we said from day one that a lot of the things in that bill were not good. Not necessarily for law enforcement, but more for our community. But there were some things in there that were good. I mean, our staff, our deputies are so glad we have body cameras right now. So that was one of the things in there that they mandated every police agency have body cameras. That was a good thing. But there's a lot of bad things. So, we will continue to, as bad as they, the people who, we who were opposed to 3653 were called liars and racists and fearmongers and everything else, but yet they've already had 2 trailer bills that have passed. They had a trailer bill this session that the House passed and the Senate had adjourned, so they didn't get a chance to pass it. So, I mean, they're still working on it, and, we'll see what happens. I mean, that's where we're at now. We'll continue to work to get some of it, changed.
Chief Judge.
Yeah, if I can speak from here, I can just address a couple of comments. I thought maybe that Mr. Rowe and the courts would get together and put together a presentation for this committee. I was waiting to see if there were going to be any trailer bills passed. Judge Dickinson is also going to head up a committee to look into and explain what all is involved in this. We had our biennial judges conference in Lombard last week, and all of the judges, actually half of the judges in the state were there, the other half will go in June, but they were all very concerned about this, and we had specific seminars devoted just to this issue. And really what this is, they call it cashless bail. There is no bail. Yeah. There's no bail. So if you get arrested for murder, you can be detained, but there are several hoops that basically the state's attorney and the courts have to jump through before you can be detained. Within 24 hours for misdemeanors and within 48 hours for felonies, the state's attorney has to file a petition to detain, and there has to be a hearing, and the defendant has to be present, so they have to be brought over to the courthouse. And the state has to prove beyond a preponderance of the evidence that this person is a danger to the community and they need to be held. Well, if the judge does detain that defendant, then it's not like they have a $100,000 bail, they got to put up $10,000 to get out. They are detained until that case goes to trial. And in that situation, they've actually lowered the 120 days for trial to 90 days, so they've shortened that period. But two other, and as I said, maybe we can give you a PowerPoint or a better presentation in the future, but you know, the other two issues are, we have thousands of warrants that are outstanding. The question is, what happens to them? Do you still arrest them, Sheriff, and bring them in and say, oh, you've been arrested for retail theft, goodbye, come to court in 2 weeks. And then the other issue is, what do we do with the people that are already in custody right now that have a bail set? I don't know the answer. Thank you.
And those are great points. And the one thing that Judge Cunnington mentioned about the 90 days as opposed to 120 days. Law enforcement departments cannot get lab work back from the state lab within 90 days. So, yeah, thanks for getting my blood point.
Yep, sorry. Any other questions for the sheriff? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Up next, the coroner, Mr. Gessner. In your package, have a copy of his monthly report and the monthly receipts of money. Take a motion to combine and approve that. Mr. Long, second by Ms. Peters.
Morning, Chairman.
Good morning, sir.
I don't think I'd ever get up here.
Sorry. I won't ask you any questions.
Good.
Comments on your report, Bob?
Comment on my reports.
132.
Basically, we look at approximately 132 calls in March. Actually, our autopsies have gone up. I preach that all the time. They've really gone up this month and the month we're in right now. I do notice down on the bottom down there on COVID with zero in the month of March. Knock on that. But other than that, if you look down even farther, we talk a lot about homicides, but you notice that suicides are up quite a bit. We've had 8 suicides already in the first 4 months, from firearms to hangings, basically. And then our overdoses, as the sheriff talked about, and it's good to try to remember what he said about 7 calls that they've saved through the Narcan. And then you hear in my report saying that, let me pull it up here, we're at 12 overdose cases as of yesterday in April. 6 are pending right now. We definitely know that they're going to be overdoses. But if you add that on another 7, that's just one department, where I get the statistics off of all the other EMS, and also the other officers are way up. So that's a positive thing, I guess. Some people don't, or still comment and call me up on the phone and tell me they should just let them die, but they're human beings. So average age still is 42. And other than that, we're seeing a lot of meth coming into the area now because meth is a little cheaper. But we're still seeing the fentanyl. And there's a new fentanyl, ISO, it's ISO. Look it up and Google it. It's a new drug out there. It's another fentanyl that's 20 to 100 times more powerful than fentanyl itself. it's all over Florida right now on spring break. So I hope any kids that are down there, yours out of there, to sure and watch that, because they go down real quick. Also, you know it's going to come up in this area here. The last one we gave that they gave us after I got that, it was the next day we had that other fentanyl come in. So it's just something either they smoke it, snort it, or inject it, same as the other one. So it gets tiring to seeing all this stuff all the time, and but we do the best we can. We're out and about teaching a little bit now. Some of the colleges are coming to the morgue. They want to go through, and there's a lot of people that are involved in forensics. So the only other things that I got, if I don't have any other questions on that, Mr. Chairman.
Hang on. Any questions or comments on the reports? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
But as the sheriff mentioned, the ARPA fund there, I like to say that we did get our freezer in. It's been installed. It's remarkable how impressive that is compared to what we had before. We only held 2, and now we can hold 6, and maybe more than that. I have one particular problem that we have is our air handling unit is due in sometime in late June or maybe July, which we're right on negative pressure right now. If we fall below there, we're in trouble. We've done everything we can possibly do to hang on to that. But I got one problem that we got on a door. It's one of the doors that lead out into the garage area. It's a bigger door than these doors. It's old. It's falling apart on us. We can't get the right possible equipment to handle that door anymore, and it sticks open, which is going to cause our negative pressure to go down when it doesn't close properly. I went ahead and got a few estimates on that. I talked to the chairman a little bit about it. The final bill on that and what it'll be is a door that we have a problem when we bring the bodies out. We're banging on that door quite a bit. Well, this new door is like you're going to go into Jewel or Walgreens or something like that. It's going to open up for us wide enough where we can get right on through there. Comes back on a positive, negative pressure, guaranteed. And that roughly runs around, to have it installed and everything, is $11,450.
Wow.
I'm gonna, who? You say wow?
Yeah, he said wow.
Wow, yeah. If, I'll talk about all that, but anyhow, I can take that out of my fees, coroner's fees, and pay for it on my own, or I'm asking, like the sheriff said, maybe possibly get that under ARPA because of where we're at.
Question, Mr. Wheeler. Could we amend that? It has to do with the air handling. Could we amend that and add that to that system for the ARPA funds?
Because the final rule kind of changed a few things. What we're doing is on a quarterly or maybe semi-annual basis, pull together all these infrastructure spend that we're doing out of the maintenance budget and then transfer it over to ARPA. So we bring that to the board as one big list of valves and doors and other infrastructure things. Instead of voting on every single one of them in committee, we'll pay for them out of the maintenance budget and then we'll transfer them over. So I would say that as long as it's not subject to the bid requirements, that really it's up to, you know, just put it through maintenance if the committee agrees. Then we bring a big list of all these things rather than discussing every nickel and dime for infrastructure only things, like doors, like those big valves that were out at the jail, the wash bay issue that we got that one approved separately, but it's those things that happen that are infrastructure related as we go through the course of doing daily business. And I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
It saves everybody a lot of time. So I think it qualifies, and I think Steve would agree. So
I was just thinking if we get this in the works and it could be done before the air handling goes in June, That was my question, that's why I asked.
Right. I think it's appropriate. But it's a maintenance spend until we transfer them all later. So I don't think we would need to approve anything separately until that time comes.
Okay.
Would you agree? I mean, that's my take on it, and I think the board would want to handle it that way as well.
To be just like a head nod, yeah.
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 They call them gang sheets, maybe 2 or 3 pages of infrastructure, spend that we just approve all at once and then transfer that into whichever fund in ARPA that it needs to be to.
Good. See Wes.
He's been out there. Other than that,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hunter, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Bob, the other freezers, the old freezers, did I hear maybe Chairman Wheeler or somebody mention yesterday you're going to transfer that thing over to the dog pound? Or did I mishear?
Good question. I forgot that, and it's sitting right on my notes right here. The old one that we wanted to sell basically is roughly we could get between 10 and 15,000 for it. It's a 2-drawer. It's in perfectly good shape out of there. We were ready to put out feelers on that when I heard about when Kerry came up to me and asked me about that, and then I talked to the sheriff about that, of just donating my freezer to them, because they need to have that for dogs that go into in different types of cases of death, something on that aspect there. But we have no problem with that. I just knew we know we could get between 10 and 15 for that, but I'm not charging them anything. I'm giving it to them along with a weight scale of what they call as a scissor, so that can be lifted up. 2 trays that are very costly. You think 11,000 is bad out of there. When we did our morgue table, which we got, that was roughly almost 12 to 15 grand for that table. So it's expensive to run a morgue, but they last for a long time. Other than that, that's exactly what.
Yeah, I don't know if I heard you correctly. So you're gonna donate that or transfer that over to the animal shelter?
That's correct.
Okay, I didn't quite hear that. Okay, thank you. Good.
Glad to see you back there, Mr. Hunter.
Hey, man. Yeah, I can't wait to get back there and hassle some of you guys. So.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Any questions for the coroner? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any old business come before the committee? Any old business? Any new business? Mr. Snipes.
Thank you. Just for informational purposes, I had the opportunity to hear that the governor is signing a budget that provides $1.8 billion in relief to the Illinoisans on gas, groceries, and property taxes. I just want to know if it's advantageous to have our state legislators here, both the Senate and the House. But when I say that, I see that we're being cut up into 3 senators and 3 House reps in the future. But now that we have 2 of each, if we can get at least one of them in from each of the House and the Senate to show how that $1.8 billion is going to benefit Kankakee County.
We have to see what their schedule is and ask them, I guess.
Yeah, or they can just, if they would, if they have a congested schedule, if they can give us what they call a little synopsis sheet that basically says, hey, this is how it benefits Kankakee County, that can be disseminated to the board, so we will be able to give that information to our respective constituents. So if this going, especially when you're saying gas, groceries, and property taxes, because as I dig into it, I'm thinking that the gas is going to go down, but it's some formula of something that they're not going to do. So I need to see how is this actually benefiting when you're putting a $1.8 billion package, and that it doesn't all go to north of us, but that south of us can see some realization from this budget.
Chairman will work on that. Any other new business? Ms. Peters?
Move to adjourn.
Second by Mr. Long. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion